I'm delighted to have on the podcast with me today, Tolu, who is a second year medical sciences. What's it called?
Medical student.
Medical student at Manchester University. We're going to talk like we always do. Starting at the beginning of the educational journey. So maybe talking about the back end of GCSE sort of into A-level, and then talking about the preparation to move from A-level into degree. And because Tolu is now in his second year, we're going to be able to talk a little bit about what first year was like and what the differences are between first and second year at university. So sit back, enjoy the show. If you're watching along on YouTube and if you're not already subscribed, please do. If you enjoy it, like the video, leave a comment, all of that kind of stuff. But with that said, let's crack on. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. So talk me through your journey where you felt you were leaving GCSE. Did you get the results that you wanted from GCSE, and were you carrying a positive momentum into A-level, would you say?
Interesting. Well, I was part of the year that we didn't have GCSEs.
Right. So 2020, 2021?
2021.
Okay, cool. So how did that work then?
Well, for my school, what did we do? It was based on our tests throughout the year.
Okay.
And then we had little mini assessments at the end, which no one kind of took seriously.
Right.
School didn't really take it seriously as GCSEs. But then I got good grades. I did well at GCSE.
Yeah.
But I never truly felt that I earned them grades.
Yeah.
And I never felt like I had that exam pressure that I feel like you should feel at GCSE.
So I'm guessing you then had that exam pressure for A-level, but you'd never done a practice run at GCSE.
Yeah.
Do you think that caught you out? Did that catch other people out in your year?
I mean, I can't really talk for other people.
Yeah, sure.
But talking for myself, massively.
Really?
Massively. Because I feel like, looking back, I feel like GCSE prepares you for that exam pressure for A-level. So because I never had that, I never knew how that felt. So I never really got exam like pressure when I got to A-level until it got too close to exams. That's when I started to feel it like, oh wow, like these are coming.
Yeah.
But because GCSEs never happened the way they usually happen, it meant that when entering A-levels, I never had that experience of exams. I didn't know how it felt to sit in an exam hall with my whole year group who do that subject. And I didn't have that experience of exam invigilators and all that, just basic stuff that you feel like you should know by the time you get into year 13.
Yeah.
We never got to experience that really.
And how did it work with revising as well then? Because we often talk a lot on the podcast about revision, because I think one of the big things about learning for young people and for students is like how to revise effectively. Yeah. And I think with A-level and having done GCSE, because you have so many subjects you have to revise for in GCSE, you have to learn how to revise quite efficiently and get the work done, revise for subjects you don't like, revise for subjects you find really, really difficult, but you know they're important. And you kind of, that's really useful to learn those sorts of skills in terms of how to prepare for an exam. Now, again, I'm guessing you kind of never really had that. So how did you go about revising for A-levels, having never had the experience? Yeah,
like you said, because I never really got that. Like I've seen my sister go through her GCSE process and I compare mine to hers. It's very, very different. The way she had to revise for each subject compared to the way I did. So I think entering into A-level, it was kind of like I had to find my own way that I wanted to revise and I felt best for me, when I feel like I should have had that entering. Obviously, everyone's different and you can change as you grow up. But for me, I felt like I learned how I wanted to revise entering into A-levels and when I was revising for my A-levels. And even then it changed a lot depending on what subject it was.
Fair enough.
Which I think was important for me because I couldn't sit and do the same thing, same revision technique for every single subject.
Yeah.
Because I think I needed change, which I learned.
Do you think did your revision process work? Would you do anything differently if you were to do it again?
I'd start earlier.
Really?
That's the number one thing I'd do.
Okay.
Which I think I'd carry that into now.
Okay.
University. I'd start a lot earlier. Even if it's just a little bit, I'd start earlier. And I'd also try more techniques.
Okay.
So by starting earlier, I think it gives you more leeway to try different techniques. And then obviously when you get into crunch time, you want to have your technique sorted and focus on that. But I think because I left it, I wouldn't say too late, but because I left it decently late and I had a lot to cover for A-levels, it meant I didn't get to try out as many revision techniques that I would have wanted to. So I kind of stuck to one or two and kept using those. And who knows, like maybe that wasn't what's best for me in that subject, but never find out.
So let's help people out then a little bit on that sort of timing, just because I don't think we've ever really dug into that on the podcast. What do you think? So A-levels, I think generally are kind of May and June.
Yeah.
So what do you think if you were to do it all again and you've established, I probably wanted to start a bit earlier. When do you think would be a good time to start?
I think the important thing for me was making sure I had my revision stuff sorted.
Okay, like all notes collected. Okay.
My mistake for A-levels and first year of uni was my revision time was spent making flashcards.
Okay.
Instead of going through them.
Okay.
So I think making sure my flashcards were done is a key part. I think that's revision as well.
Okay.
Because you can get stuff from class and then if you go home and you make your flashcards, you're revising it already. And you don't have to go through it every day, but at least you've got them done. And then say exams are in May, June, I'd say post mocks, just start going through a little bit.
So February, that kind of time?
Just start going through a little bit. Keep making your flashcards. Maybe go through one flashcard deck on one topic that you struggle with. Like you don't need to go through the stuff that you find easy. Yeah. Just if there's a topic you're struggling with, just go through that maybe once or twice a week. Just keep refreshing your mind on it. So that when you get into the crunch season, it's already in your brain. You don't have to go and relearn it. You're just revising it, ready for the exams.
So flashcards, I'm guessing, are a good thing to kind of really get on top of.
Yeah.
Have you carried that into university as well, out of interest?
Yeah.
Massively. Do you think it works? It works even with such a complex subject like medicine?
Massively. I think for medicine, everyone uses flashcards. At least at my course, I can only speak from that.
Okay.
Everyone uses flashcards because a lot of it is you just need to learn it and understand it. But I think everyone has different methods into making their flashcards and then around it. So for me, I love watching videos. I don't have to write anything whilst watching them. I just love sitting and watching a Ninja Nerd video or something to explain a condition because I feel like I'm a visual or like auditory learner, so I can understand it. And also, I just think my brain is wired in a way that like, I like just listening to stuff and seeing stuff instead of just seeing text all the time. So I think, but I know some people like mind maps, some people just like reading and writing notes. So I think that secondary method, apart from flashcards at med school, is really important. But I guess at A-level, like I said, like trying different stuff out, seeing what works for you. So I know for me, watching videos was important for biology at A-level. Okay. To understand the process, like off the top of my head, like photosynthesis or something more complex than that. But I think for chemistry, I didn't really find videos as useful. I just found doing past papers, doing flashcards more useful for chemistry. Cool. But that's obviously for me personally.
Yeah. I wonder, that's interesting that some subjects have different, better ways of using revision. That's kind of interesting. Were there any other like revision techniques or anything you tried that didn't work for you?
Mind maps.
Really? Okay, talk to me about that.
So for biology, I remember for A-level, I would, again, for process, write like photosynthesis and then do mind maps around it. Or for RS, religious studies, I'd then do like a topic and do mind maps around it. I just found it didn't work.
In what way? It was like boring or
I found it, for me, very tedious.
Okay, cool.
Like I just couldn't sit and write it out. And obviously I'm not artistic at all. Okay. Anyone can tell you that. So to make my mind map look aesthetically pleasing, right, it was impossible for me. Okay. So it just looked like a random mess of webs and lines. Because I didn't deep, like lines go over each other and the circles are always a mess. So then looking at it later, it's like, what is
You almost want to like screw it up and throw it away because you're so embarrassed.
Like, what am I looking at here? It's a bunch of circles and lines all over each other.
Yeah.
Just didn't work. So I was like, nah.
Okay, cool. So mind maps are out the window.
Yeah.
Kind of made that decision pretty early on. Were there any other techniques you can think of that you tried, maybe didn't work for you at all?
An interesting one for me was just paper notes.
Okay.
Because I know like some people I'm close with at uni, they like to write their notes down and then highlight it and go through it that way. But I think I'm a really slow writer. So then I wouldn't get the notes done as quickly as you need to. So it wasn't efficient. So I wouldn't say that's a bad way. Like I didn't find that as a bad way, but time efficiency wise, it didn't really work for me.
Do you ever try like recording notes or actually like speaking notes or anything like that, listening back to it?
I want to do, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like try out. Like I've seen some people do that like online and it's an interesting thing to try out and see how that works.
Yeah. Even if you use like an app or something where you'd almost dictate it and it will type it for you or something like that.
Stuff like that I think would be really
That'd be really good, particularly if you're someone who finds writing really difficult or really boring or whatever, or very time consuming. That could probably be a much quicker way of doing it.
I think
Maybe think about that.
as well, speaking stuff out helps you remember it as well.
Absolutely.
So that could be a really useful way.
So there's this revision technique where you imagine teaching it yourself to someone. Like you could, for example, like imagine a really like a young person, say like a 6 or a 7-year-old. Yeah. Take one of your topics that you're working on revising, and then imagine teaching it to like a 6 or 7-year-old, because when it's a 6 or 7-year-old, you've got to really break it down and make it really simple and clear. And then if you were to like sort of press the dictate button or whatever, and it was to type out the simplest way of explaining it, that might be kind of helpful as well. Yeah.
Might try that.
Give it a go, man.
I'll have to come and let you know how it goes.
That's free, dude. What about like, did you ever, or have you ever looked into like ChatGPT or anything like that for notes? Because I think, I don't know how trustworthy it is, but I know that can condense notes as well. Have you looked into that?
I don't know how much my uni would be happy with me saying, but
for your notes, I mean,
ChatGPT has been massive.
Really?
And just AI like that is massive because there's endless amount of sources and information, especially at med school, I'd like to point out.
Yeah.
There's so many textbooks you can use, so many websites, and they all have slightly different information, even though they're talking about the same condition.
Yeah.
I think what you can use ChatGPT for, which I use it for, was like to condense a lot of different sources and to create flashcard questions.
Okay, cool.
So I use something called, I used to use ChatGPT, but now I use a thing called Notebook.
Okay.
And you can put sources in it, and then you ask it to create flashcards from the sources you put in, and it can only use the sources you put in.
Cool.
So I'll go and find sources on a condition, put it into Notebook and be like, create me 100 flashcards to explain heart attacks. And it will just give me 100 questions based on the sources I put in.
Interesting. So it won't take anything from the internet other than what you have plugged into it effectively. Yeah. That's good. So that kind of eliminates the worry with ChatGPT, where it just like gets random information from really a random place, and then you're going to get a question that's not actually going to work. Yeah. That's really cool. And do you know other people that use that in your year, or is that kind of a well-known thing?
Most people use ChatGPT.
Okay.
And Notebook is not many people use it. So none of my friends use it.
Okay.
But I think it's...
Is it free to use?
Yes, free.
So you just have to, do you have to sign up? Do you have to have
just sign up with a Google account?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So you'd recommend that to people?
I'd recommend that. At least give it a look, give it a try.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool, man. So revision then, you were learning sort of on the job effectively with A-level. You then got to, did you do mocks?
We did do mocks.
Okay, cool. And how did you get on in the mocks? Were your results in line with what you thought you would get based on the fact that you felt a little bit under pressure with exams, or were they a real worry, or were you kind of cool with them?
They were a bit of a worry.
Really?
Yeah, they were a bit of like a
wake-up call?
Wake-up call. Like you need to really fix up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't go. I wouldn't say they went awfully.
Okay.
I think just relative to where, like, to relative to what I needed to get into med school, they weren't there.
So you had already made the decision. I'm guessing at this point you had already kind of applied to universities. You knew you were doing medicine and everything. By the time you did mocks, had you done your personal statement as well?
Yeah, by the time we'd done mocks, I sent my application off.
Oh, wow. And had you had any offers at that point?
No, I would have had offers for interviews at that point, but no actual offers.
Okay, cool. Great. All right, sweet. I'm aware that we should probably stick to a timeline, but we're kind of jumping all over the place. Okay, fine. So, all right, because we needed to talk about revision. I think that was pretty important. Okay, so let's go then into year 13. At what point were you writing your personal statement? Because I'm talking to a lot of students at the moment who are thinking their strategy. So I'm talking to year 12 students at the moment who are saying, I'm probably going to be starting my personal statement in the summer or towards the end of the summer. Do you agree with that? Is that something you did?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think, my school said we had to have a first draft in by the first week of year 13.
Okay.
So we had to do it during summer anyway.
Cool.
But I think even if your school doesn't say that, I think if you can, you've got all the time in summer. Like if you can get a draft done, give it to your parents, let them read it, and then have a draft that you'd be willing to submit.
Okay.
To give to your teachers, to your subject teachers when you get back into school.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just alleviates stress as well, because year 13 is a stressful year for everyone. Like, I don't think you can replicate it, especially the start and the end, to be fair. So the less stress you can give yourself going into the start of year 13, the better.
Kind of get it done earlier, sooner rather than later, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Because it's easier to make a few changes than to write a whole new personal statement.
Cool. And did you get any help with the personal statement? Like, obviously doing it over the summer means you're not going to have your teachers there. And I don't know how much teachers really help anyway with it, but did you have any resources for how to do a personal statement or anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was I feel like I went to like one or two like webinars or like Zoom things about, because obviously medical personal statements are quite a bit different.
Are they? In what way?
Well, from what I remember, you have to really talk about why you would make a good medical student and really focusing on like skills that you need to be a doctor, where you've learned it, and why that medical school should use you to invest their time and money into. So at school we had a medical school officer. Okay. So she would help us with sessions about personal statements, what to write during year 12. So then during the summer, I went away, wrote my draft. In terms of help during the summer, I didn't get much, as in like I got my parents obviously to help me. And then obviously once we got back in year 13, I got teachers, obviously the medical school officer. Yeah.
And was there many redrafts after that?
Yeah, loads.
Really?
Absolutely loads. I think the thing was like what one person wanted to change, another person would think
keep it in.
Interesting. And I think that's something I tell people now is like, get people's opinions, but at the end of the day, it's your personal statement. So do what you think is right for you.
That's good advice. Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be your words, right? And it's got to be what you want to get across about you. So yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice, that it's got to be you. It's got to feel like you.
I remember giving my personal statement to someone and then they sent me a redraft with their changes. And I read it and I was like, I would never say those words in my life.
Really?
Got rid of it, put it back into my own words. And I felt better because it's like, that's actually me and the way I want to show myself to uni.
Absolutely. And had you done any work experience at that point? Like hospital kind of work experience or anything?
I'd like shadowed a few doctors.
Okay.
I went to my local hospital and shadowed like a ward there. Okay. Which was really good.
Was that one day or a couple of days?
So that was three days.
Okay.
At Bedford Hospital. It was invaluable.
Really?
Yeah. It's not much. Yeah, it was really good.
So, and that obviously, I imagine some people might do that and then realize it's not for them. But for you, it really strengthened your desire to do it.
Yeah. I think, but it also takes away your delusion of it.
What do you mean by that?
I think it opens your eyes into the realities of being a doctor. It's not, again, this is veering on into medicine, but it's not only seeing patients, it's the writing up, the typing up, the extra jobs you have to do. Like, it's not all seeing patients and that's it. There's a lot of mundane jobs that actually come with it as well. I got to sit in some like multidisciplinary team meetings and they talk about patients and it's just like, you realize the scale of the course you want to get into.
Yeah.
And it's daunting. Like, it makes you realize like, wow, like this is real, but also exciting.
That's great. And did it help you at all with your personal statement, do you feel?
Yeah.
Because you were able to talk about those experiences and it showed your commitment as well, I'm guessing.
I mean, it shows commitment, but obviously not everyone can get work experience. I think unis nowadays they don't mind if you've done it or not. I think it's more if you've done it, what can you
say about it?
What can you reflect?
But it's not gonna be held against you if you've not found somewhere to do it.
No. It's more about what you've learned. If you go to work experience and then you haven't learned anything or you haven't gained any skills and you don't reflect on it, you haven't gained anything.
It's almost worth not be talking about anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
If you sort of did your work experience and then were like, put in your personal statement, I hated every minute of it, but still let me in on your course.
And even if you even put in your personal statement, I shadowed a doctor and it was fun. You haven't gained anything.
Yeah.
Uni probably laugh at you.
Yeah.
Like, you got to reflect on like, I sat in this meeting and it showed the teamwork and then link that to yourself and why there's a lot of extra bit. It's not just work experience.
Yeah.
That's important.
It's cool, man. So how many universities and which universities did you apply for?
Cool. So obviously I applied for 5, but only 4 can be medicine.
Okay.
So I did Manchester, Nottingham, Leeds and Hull York Medical School.
Okay.
And I did KCL as my like backup choice.
Cool. Great. And which ones of those required interviews and things like that?
Every med school requires interviews.
Cool.
And obviously King's College, I didn't need an interview for.
Okay, cool. So that means you had 4 interviews. Did you have 4 interviews?
Yeah, I got 4 interviews.
Wow. And how were they?
Funny story.
Go for it.
I had 2 interviews on the same day.
Okay. Like, how did that work?
So Hull York gave me an interview on, like, they offered me an interview and I got to pick what day I wanted my interview. So I picked a day, let's just say the 13th of January. And then Nottingham came back and said, you've got your interview on the 13th of January. I emailed in saying I've already booked in. They were like, either you do it or you drop out.
Really? They didn't give you any alternative?
So lucky for me, Nottingham was an online interview.
Okay.
And Hull York was an in-person interview.
Okay.
So me and my family, we went up to Hull, and I'm in a hotel room.
Right.
And I'm doing my Nottingham interview. That was my first interview. I was so scared.
Yeah,
it went horribly wrong. And then it finished, closed my laptop, got in my dad's car, straight to Hull York for my second interview.
Do you feel that the second one went better?
So much better.
Really? Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
So much better.
What went wrong with the first interview, the online interview?
I think a lot of people I talk to say your first interview is usually your worst.
Okay.
For me, I didn't understand. Like, I don't think I appreciated I don't want to say seriousness of it, but like, once your time's done, your time's done. They didn't give me a chance to finish my sentence or where I was going. I remember one of my early stations in my interview, we were talking and I was doing my bit, my part, I was killing it. And then she cuts me off and I was shaking. I was like, now what? And then it just spiraled from there.
So it kind of got you in your head.
Yeah.
It kind of freaked you out.
Yeah.
You felt like, I'm on a roll, but I'm being cut off. And it put a lot of time pressure on you.
Yeah. And then from the rest of that interview was not great.
And did it feel very different when you were in person? Did you prefer the in-person one?
Yeah, massively. Because also, I don't think they can cut you off.
In person, to your face.
Cold. It's cold in person. Like, they give you that little 30 seconds leeway to finish what you're saying. I think it's easy to create that rapport with your interviewers when you're in person. So I'd definitely, if you have a choice, I'd recommend in person.
Really? So, and I don't know if that's the case. Do you know if it's the case where you could be offered an in-person and also an online one? Do you often get the choice?
Well, okay, Nottingham was just online.
Online only.
Hull York was just in person.
Okay.
Leeds was just online. And then Manchester was a choice.
Okay. And you chose to go there or online?
Manchester, I chose to do online mainly because, as I'm me, I left picking my interview date till the last second.
Okay.
And the only date available was online.
Okay. Oh, right. I see.
So it's that.
Would you have gone in person, do you think?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel that your online interviewing then got better by the time you got round to Manchester?
Yeah. I think I had a massive gap between my Nottingham interview and my Manchester. So I had 2 months.
Oh, wow.
So obviously post Nottingham, I'm stressing,
yeah,
I need to work on my interview skills and being concise and the buzzwords that I need to say and all that stuff. So I worked on it, did my Leeds interview. I thought that went okay, but obviously could still improve. And I had another month to work on it. So I thought by the time we got to Manchester, it was a case of I've done 2 months of decently intense preparation. I've done this before. I've done 3 interviews before. I know what to expect. So I felt, more confident that as long as I do what I know I can do, and I enjoy interviews. So
I'm guessing then your advice to someone knowing that they've got maybe university interviews pretty, coming up, to start early then. Start on the interview prep earlier even, right?
Yes and no.
Because imagine if your top choice university was your first one. Because as you said, your first one's always generally going to be your worst. Yeah. You don't want to be in a position where you're learning on the job, but you've already missed your opportunity on your first choice because your first one was a bit rubbish. Do you think you should start earlier, or what do you think? What's the best? Also as well, what's the best way to prepare for an interview and revise for it? What do you think?
I think for me, the best way was, there's loads of resources online about what can come up in interviews, and you just learn the buzzwords and you know your experiences and you learn what you need to say about it. Linked to that, I feel like if you start revising really early, the risk you have is you put too much pressure.
Okay.
I think it's important when you go into an interview to be nervous, obviously, but to also be calm and composed. Because another thing is, if you're rushing your words, if you're speaking too quickly, if you feel too much pressure, you don't want to mess up. You want to be confident that you know what you're doing. So I think it's important to also speak to people and just have mock interviews. I think would be my number one tip. I remember we did a mock interview at my school, and my teacher, I wouldn't say slated me, but gave me a lot of constructive criticism. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm not where I need to be for these interviews coming up. But it also gave me the feedback that I needed on where I needed to, because I could speak to people, but I just didn't know what to say. I didn't know the right words to say or the right reflections to make.
Sure. I mean, interviews are different experiences to just having a conversation with someone, right? Because, an interviewer is kind of asking you these questions and, really considering your answers. Whereas when you have a conversation with someone, you're just sharing your thoughts, right? But constantly in the back of your mind with an interview, you're like, oh God, I've got to make a good impression. I've got to make sure I'm not rushing. I've got to make sure all of the words that I'm saying are the right words, and that can put a lot of pressure on you and make you feel quite uncomfortable. Cool, man. So what were the requirements that you ended up getting from those universities? Can you remember?
So I got 3 offers. Leeds, Manchester were 3As.
Okay.
And then Hull York, I got a contextual AAB if I firmed them.
Okay, cool. And so A-levels happened. Obviously, we talked a little bit about sort of revision and stuff like that. I think it's now probably good to kind of maybe talking about how did the exams themselves go? Big pause.
I had chemistry and RS, religious studies exams on the same day.
Okay.
So all 3 exams were on the same day, which
3.
adds an extra layer of stress
Yeah.
to exams. But I think exams went how everyone thinks they went. Like, you think you did a lot worse than you did.
Okay.
I thought the exams this year were quite hard. And the grade boundaries were ridiculous in my year, that we did A-levels.
Is that because they were rebalancing from COVID?
Yeah, that's what I think it was.
Okay.
So a lot of people got below what they would have thought they would have got.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So what was results day like?
Probably the most stressful day
Really?
I've had in a long time.
Okay.
Get up, you're nervous.
Yeah.
We get to school, get my results. I got A star, A, and a B in chemistry.
Okay.
But I needed 3 A's.
Oh, but you got an A star.
Well, so I look at my UCAS.
Okay.
And it didn't say accepted, but it didn't say rejected. It said like standby or like waiting.
Okay.
Which I think is one of the worst messages you could get. Because I'm sitting there like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Hidden message.
So I called Manchester. I'm like, cool, I've got this message. I've got my grades. Like, what's going on? And the guy was like, I'm sorry, you didn't get in. So I'm thinking, oh, okay.
Okay,
crazy.
gutted.
My school teacher's like, oh, like, unfortunate. You're never going to get a medical interview through clearing. Like, just think about what else you could do. But
wow, so I mean, let's talk about that, dude, because that must be really like messing with your head in a way, right? I mean, imagine a teacher saying to you, like, you've spent like 2 years gearing up to go to med school, right? And then this teacher is like, oh, it's probably not going to happen for you. You must be.
I think I would have been devastated, but my parents wouldn't let me. They were like, no, we're going to keep trying. And my teacher was like, oh, it's unlikely you're going to get a medical clearing interview. But I think our attitude was, if there's a possibility, let's try and get it.
Sure.
We must have ringed up every single med school in the UK. We had my sister's phone, my phone, my parents' phone. We were ringing unis left, right, centre. Managed to get and we were meant to go on holiday the next day. We managed to get a medicine clearing interview at Leicester.
Okay.
Which was like, I was like, wow, I've got another opportunity. I enjoy interviews to a point like, cool, I'll be given another chance. If this doesn't work, I'll go to King's and go from there. But I've got this chance. So we leave the school. I'm obviously not in a happy mood.
No, I bet.
Like, you know, I've messed up my exams. I've missed it by 1 grade. Like, rough. But I've got this interview, so I'm going home. I'm getting ready to start preparing for the interview. We've had to move our holiday around a bit. Well, we were going to.
Yeah, was it in person then at Leicester?
Online, I believe.
So could you have done it online from holiday?
Yeah, I think that was the plan.
Okay, cool.
Potentially. But then at like 2:30 that day, I get an email saying I got into Manchester.
Really?
And I was like, obviously emotions were crazy.
Dude, what did that feel like?
Unreal.
Really?
Like that happiness, yeah, was good. It was a good day. Like I can remember that day so vividly in my head.
Yeah.
Like my mom's reaction, my sister's reaction, when we told my dad. Like, yeah. Like it was just like a surreal moment.
Because it had been taken away from you, right?
It felt like I'd wasted my opportunity.
Yeah.
And that I'd thrown it away. Because I feel like I blame myself for my A-level results. Because like I said, I don't think I started early enough and all that stuff. So because I put all that blame on myself, I was like, I've wasted this opportunity. And to get that actual other chance at Leicester was happy. I was good enough with that. And to actually get in, it was like
amazing. Did you celebrate? Was there like any sort of celebrations that night? It was
crazy because my mum had ordered us like pizza as like a commiseration, like, oh, this will cheer Tolu up.
Yeah.
But by the time the pizza man had come, I got my offer for Manchester. So then that turned into a celebration pizza. And we had aunties, uncles on the phone. Because like, I think a big thing for me was, obviously my parents never made me feel like this, but I felt like I let myself down. I let them down. I let family members down. But then to see that switch into like, I made them proud was like, just a nice experience.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh, that's great, dude. Amazing. And then so you were off, and then I guess you had a pretty good summer that year, knowing that you were going to be heading off to Manchester. And then what was that like in the sort of, few weeks before you go up to Manchester? I'm guessing you have to were you in halls in your first year?
Yeah.
And was that an easy process to sort halls out?
No.
No? Well, how come?
Nothing's been easy.
No? Okay. Talk me through that.
So I guess the way accommodation is at Manchester is they've got a lot of different halls and you pick your top 5 and the expectation is you get one of your 5. I did not get given one of my 5.
Oh God.
I looked at my accommodation. I was like devastated because I didn't want to go to that accommodation. I didn't like it. I just think it wouldn't have suited me as a person. So then I had to spend a day trying to get swaps, trying to get that all sorted.
Where are you finding the swaps? Is there an online forum or something like
I checked student room.
Okay.
I checked the group chats. People offering money for their accommodation.
No way.
Some person offered me, they said I had to pay them £200
really?
to switch accommodations. So it was hectic, but I got a swap in the end. So it worked out.
Did you have to pay 200 quid for it?
No.
It was free?
No, yeah, free.
Okay. Nice. Okay, cool. So how can you remember how long it was between getting that halls sorted and actually moving there? Was it like a week or so before, or days?
No, I think it was a good 2 weeks, I want to say.
Okay, cool.
2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe.
So then you knew where you were going to be. You could relax a little bit. And did you get sent any kind of reading lists or anything like that? Was there any work you had to do to prepare?
No.
Cool.
Not for Manchester.
You could just rock up and get going.
Yeah, it was nice.
So what was that first kind of week or two like? I imagine you had Freshers Week.
Oh, what a great 2 weeks.
Was it? Was it good?
Yeah, we had no work set. So it was just meet new people, go out a lot, meet more new people, go out more.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good week.
What are the best ways to do Freshers Week, do you think, having done it? Because I imagine as well, you've obviously you're in your second year, so you've seen this year's Freshers, and how should you do Freshers well?
I think it depends on you.
Good point. What worked for you?
I think I'm a very outgoing. I like to go out a lot. I like to meet new people out. So for me, Freshers Week was I'd go out it was a 7-day out every day.
Really?
With one rest day in between.
As if it's the gym.
You gotta relax sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, it was just meeting new people that way. But again, not everyone wants to go out.
Of course.
So I think for me to do Freshers well would be to meet people in whatever capacity that is, whether that's you go into a club or at your induction lectures, and then just to feel settled, because uni is a massive change, as I think anyone will tell you. Leaving home, you're with a bunch of new people you don't know. You're living with people you don't know. So I think just to feel settled by the end of that week, and then obviously meet people, I think that's doing Freshers well. And
do you feel that you were in a good place at the end of Freshers? Do you feel like you had adjusted from that move from home, small-ish town to suddenly the city of Manchester? Do you feel that you adjusted well? Yeah, I think I tried to just throw myself into it. Okay. I think I remember when my parents left on that moving day, it was a realization of, wow, I'm by myself. I'm just by myself now. But I think just throwing yourself into, threw myself into getting to know my flat, getting to know people, going out. So it kind of makes you think, okay, there's people here who are in a similar situation as you. They've moved away from home for the first time, most of them. So you're all in a similar boat. So just lean on each other, I guess. Nice. And do you still would you still consider some of those people like very close friends today as well? Yeah, there's a few of my flatmates who I'd say are like my closest mates right now. A couple of people who are like one of my boys that I met on Freshers Week. We live together right now. Nice.
So I've definitely made, from Freshers Week, I made connections with a lot of people, and then I've got obviously good mates, close mates from it, and then you meet people as you go through.
Cool, that's good. And then lectures started.
Yes.
And what was that adjustment then? Because, you know, the last bit of education you received would have been sort of A-levels, which probably would have been quite a while ago as well, because a lot of your last couple of months at school would have been revising anyway, like not real lessons. So what was the difference and what was the adjustment that you had to make to go from A-level classroom stuff into a university lecture?
I don't think I had to adjust. As in, I think the thing for me, I think for Manchester medical school is we don't have many lectures.
Oh, okay.
So the way the course is structured is very different to a lot of medical schools, which is the number one reason why I chose it.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have 3 lectures in a week. So I guess adjusting to that was quite, I found it okay. As in, I only have to be in here for 3 hours, then I can leave.
What 1 hour, one lecture?
Yeah.
So three hours total in the whole week?
We'd have other stuff around it, which I'm sure we can talk on a bit.
Yeah.
But actual just sit down lectures, only 3 of them in a week. So it's kind of insignificant in terms of the whole week.
And how many in a lecture room?
400.
What? 400 people?
Well, we've got 450 in our year. Not everyone goes to every lecture.
Okay.
So you can get up to about 450.
Wow.
It's very big.
Because that's a lot of people, isn't it?
A lot of people.
What's the learning environment like? Learning alongside 450 people in just an hour? Does that work, do you think?
Well, I mean, again, I don't really know how lectures are in other unis, but I think for us, it's very much we sit, the lecturer speaks to us for an hour, and then we go home.
Okay.
So there's not really like much interaction between us and the lecturer, unless you do that after the lecture.
Okay.
So
everyone just sits down, shuts up.
Yeah.
Just listen.
Right. This professor comes and speaks to us.
Okay. And what's some of the other educational stuff that you do around lectures?
Cool. So we've got anatomy. So we have an anatomy tutorial and then anatomy dissections. So tutorials are like small group. We sit and we learn and we go through the anatomy we're meant to know for that week. And then dissection and prosection is where we get to see that. So we get to see a cadaver and we get to see the body parts that we're meant to learn that week and be able to distinguish it. Then we have communication skills, which is like actually being, I like to call it actually being a doctor. So we get to speak to these simulated patients, these actors who come in and they say they've got a like disease and we are meant to like talk to them. And we learn about like getting information from them, gathering history. Then we have what we call Phys Farm. So it's called Phys Farm.
Okay.
So it's like, for us, like taking blood pressures or doing like injections and learning like, I think like labs, some people call it.
Yep.
But so like a lot of like the scientific experiments sort of stuff. And apart from that, the rest of it is learn on your own. Very much independent study.
So how many hours would you say a week on average is with other people, not by yourself?
Would you say with other people that the uni provide?
Yeah.
Okay. I say like 10 hours a week maybe.
Okay. And then the rest of it, that sort of topping up learning is done by you and run by you. You're basically your lecturer, and then you'll decide, right, I need to, learn this, or I need to make notes that I've already done on this and this.
Exactly.
And they're kind of like textbooks. Do you get a kind of like...
I guess as you can imagine, there's loads of textbooks you can use from the library. I think the uni give us online textbooks, because I can imagine giving out 450.
The pages, the trees.
Textbooks would be a lot. So they give us online textbooks that you can use.
Okay.
But obviously in the library, there's hundreds of paper textbooks that you can use as well.
Okay, cool. So you're then trying to work out, okay, I probably need to spend a couple of hours on this and doing this. How many hours would you say you spend? Or actually, let's talk about the first year hours versus the second year hours.
Okay.
So in terms of your own personal learning in first year, like how many hours would you say that was a week? What should people be prepared to commit to?
I think what people should be prepared to commit to would be different to what I did.
Okay.
I think it's definitely a personal thing. Some people won't need to study as much throughout the week, and then when it gets to exam period, they will cram it out. I think that's kind of how I was. Like, I'll get the work done. So I'd spend, if we say 2 hours a day minimum, getting work done. So that's what, like 10, 14 hours a week. And then during exam period, I would do a lot more. But I know some people who study for 5 hours a day.
Wow.
So they're doing 35 hours in a week. And then during exam period, they're a bit more relaxed because they've
already done the work.
A lot of the work done. So I guess it's depending on like how you are as a person. Because I think for me, I had a lot of other stuff going on. So I'd play a lot of football. I'd like to just go out with friends and do stuff. So
you feel you've got a really good balance between the amount of work and the amount of social activities and sport and fun and stuff like that.
Definitely, especially second year, I think I've been able to balance it a lot better. First year was like an adjustment, trying to make sure I'm not out too much. But then second year, I think I've been able to find that balance of, you know, working a good amount of hours and then also being able to do what I enjoy doing.
Cool, man. Let's talk about the end of first year. So what happens at the end of first year? Do you have exams? The exams, are they handwritten? Are they online? Like, how does it work?
So we have like a lot of exams, I believe, compared to other medical schools. We have one at the end of semester one. No, we don't. We have two at the end of semester one. We have a semester one test. So it's just a test on all semester one. And then we have something called the progress test, which I think it's unique to Manchester. So years 1 to 5 all do the same test. It's geared, like a lot of the questions are geared towards year 5. So as year ones, our pass mark was 20%.
So they give you an exam paper that covers stuff you don't even know exists.
There were so many words on there that I never recognized. There's like a thing that older years told us just to go in there, circle C, and then go out because it's multiple choice.
Yeah.
So go in there, just circle C for every answer, and you'll pass. So some people just did that and they left.
Really?
We're not meant to know.
Yeah.
But I think I found that the most interesting test because it's like seeing what we're gonna get to know in the future. Even though I had no clue what I was looking at.
Yeah.
It was quite cool to be like, by the end of 5th year, I should be able to look at that and know what it is and answer it. So
wow. And so have you done it yet on the second year version of it?
that's coming up in 22nd of January.
Okay, so that's coming up then. Yeah. Okay, sweet. We'll come on to that. So how did the first year exams go then? Like, do you get a score? Do you have to pass the year? How does it work?
You have to pass the year.
Okay.
So if you fail your semester test, if you fail what we call CCAs or OSCEs, so that's like your clinical, your practical stuff. So like your communication skills, like your stuff we learn in Phys Pharm, for example. You get another try. You get a retest. If you fail that, then unfortunately you are kicked out. Unless you have like a reason.
Yeah, sure.
Which, I think the medical is quite, especially in Manchester, they're quite understanding. Like if you've got a good reason, they don't mind letting you resit the year.
That's cool. But you passed.
Yeah, thank God. I
cool.
did pass.
Nice. And did you feel that, obviously we talked about the difficulties with A-level having not had that practice with GCSE and stuff. You obviously felt like flashcards were really important for you for those first year exams, and they worked pretty well.
Yeah, especially semester 2. I think semester 1, again, it was a struggle just trying to understand how I wanted to learn at uni.
Yeah.
Because I started semester 1 with paper notes.
Okay.
I realized that would take me too long. Then I started with I used to make massive documents in each case and then making flashcards from the documents.
Okay.
I realized that was taking me too long.
Okay.
And then I settled on just going straight into flashcards later on in that semester. So
and then that worked.
That worked better for me.
Great. And you're doing that now for your second year preparation. Nice. Cool. So we went through first year, happy days, we pass. Now we're into second year. So what are you noticing are some of the differences between first year medical school, second year medical school?
Massive, 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 massive step up.
Wow. It's a lot of massives.
A lot of massives.
Okay.
I also find it more interesting. I will caveat with that. It's a lot. I enjoy what I'm learning now. I find it interesting. It's a big step up in terms of the content, the amount of work, what you're learning about. So like this semester we've done the brain. As you can imagine, that's quite a complex.
There's a lot going on there.
A lot going on in the brain. So it's just a lot in semester 2, but also you're expected to have found your study method. You're expected to, it's the same course structure. So you know how the course is going to be run. You
know when those exams are going to be. I'm guessing it's the same kind of exams and stuff. Okay, cool.
You know how the exams are, all that. So it's just a case of doing more work.
Okay. And how do you feel you're getting on with that? The feeling of doing more work?
A lot better than I thought I would.
That's good.
Actually. Like, I think I feel more prepared for the exams I've got coming up in 2 weeks. Or at least I feel like I'm further ahead than I was in semester 1 or semester 2. So I feel like I can see myself learning to start work earlier. So like I remember for my semester 1 exams, my mum would be like, "Are you revising?" I'd be like, I'm making my flashcards. Because I hadn't made them throughout the semester, but now I've made them. So I can just go through it now.
Nice.
So I feel better.
So I'm guessing you feel your efficiency is better.
Much better, yeah.
That's good. So that's something that you've learned as you've gone through from A level into now as well, efficiency.
Yeah.
And that's good because your course is how long?
5 years.
5 years. So hopefully by the time, if you can get efficient in second year, I mean, it's third and fourth and fifth year will be a bit more chilled.
Chilled, but also it's very different because we're not on the uni campus anymore.
Really? How does that work?
So at Manchester, we have years 1 and years 2, which in other medical schools, they call it preclinical. So it's like you're on campus, you're doing a lot of like the learning, the anatomy, the clinical skills, you're just getting the ground knowledge. Then years 3, 4, and 5, you're going into hospitals and you have to do it's a lot more clinical. So it's a lot more perform a blood pressure on the patient, but you have to find your own patients. You have to go and look for patients who want you to practice on them. So it's a big change from year 2.
Sort of learning on the job.
It's very much
as it were. Yeah. You're almost like you're a sort of an apprentice doctor in a way, right? Okay, cool. How are you feeling about that? That's obviously a very different learning style.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you'll work well with that?
I'm really excited.
Yeah?
I really am excited. I just want to pass year 2 and get into it because I think it's a lot more of the medicine that I enjoy doing. So a lot more talking to patients, a lot more of the social aspect of medicine, like performing stuff on them, like blood pressure, etc. So
hands-on, being a hands-on doctor.
Hands-on, like actually feeling like a doctor.
Yeah, feeling like you're helping, I guess, in a really positive way.
So, and also we get to see many different specialities. So you get to go to like ophthalmic, rheumatology, pediatricians, general practice, like all those. So to be able to like get a feel of how each one is, I'm excited.
That'd be really cool. I like that. Okay, so you'll be outside of the classroom. You're going to be doing practical stuff and actually like becoming a sort of doctor. What are some of the things at this point do you think that you've enjoyed most about learning about medicine and being a doctor? What have you enjoyed the most?
I think I'm enjoying looking at how the body's meant to work.
Okay. Seeing
how it doesn't work and seeing the disease and being able to explain that disease, if that makes sense. I enjoy looking at now, for example, stroke and being able to understand why this particular symptoms happened from a stroke and like going back and really able to like problem solve it. I think that's really, really interesting to me. But also I think another thing I've realized is that feeling that I've got now when I can understand a difficult concept in medicine, I've not felt it. Like to be able to understand it and explain it just feels so good. So like I've enjoyed that like since going to medical school. I think it's hard, but when you understand something, you feel so rewarded in yourself.
Yeah, I guess that's right. I suppose because you're learning about a body that you have and everyone has, right? Yeah. So it's almost, and I think a lot of people don't actually understand how their body works. So in a way, it's like you will know a lot more about, even other people's body than they know themselves, right?
Yeah.
And that feeling must be quite rewarding. And it must be sort of maybe affirming and sort of almost, I don't know if it's calming is the right word, but I mean, I know a lot of people when they get ill, they're on Google and they're like, right, I've got these are my symptoms. And then it comes back and it's like, well, you've probably got a week to live. Yeah. And that'll freak a lot of people out, right?
Whereas every headache is brain cancer.
Exactly. But for you will have this feeling of, no, actually, if we've got these symptoms, we're probably looking in this area. And if we're looking in this area, these are some ways we can solve that. Yeah. That must feel really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly that.
That's great, man. Yeah, I wish I had that knowledge. What's something that you've perhaps not enjoyed as much? Like, what's something that you found maybe particularly difficult, or just something you've not enjoyed? If there's anything, there might not be anything.
No, I think uni as a whole. Wait, so about uni or about medicine? Medicine, it's tough.
Is it?
It's very draining. There's a lot. Or you never feel like you're on top of it, which is a hard place to be in that.
Yeah.
You always feel guilty when you're doing something that's not studying.
Really?
Because there's other people who are studying. So there's someone else on your course who's putting in 12-hour days. And you feel like if they're doing that, why am I not doing that? Yeah, I think that's okay. I'd say that's quite tough.
And how do you get over that?
I think it's hard to do. I think naturally medics compare themselves a lot to other medics, even if they want to or not. Because at the end of the day, it's a competitive course. Like you feel like you are in competition with other people. So I guess the only way you can get over it is just focusing on yourself. I think I personally just want to focus on myself, do the best I can, and whatever happens from there, happens from there. I can't control what other people do. I can only control how I feel about it. So
sure, and I guess going back to what you said earlier as well about personally, to me, this worked, this didn't work. The 12 hours someone might do might be very different to the 5 hours that you might do, but you might come to the same meeting point, right?
It's like, I'm a very nocturnal learner. So seeing people during the day working, especially if someone was like to me, oh, they're doing a lot more work than me. But then you forget that whilst I'm up at 2 a.m. still working, they're probably asleep. So it just depends on yourself. And obviously some person might need 4 hours to understand the concept, while someone else might only need 2 hours to understand it. So yeah, it's just about getting over comparing yourself to others.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So as we sort of get close to the end of the discussion, do you have any advice if you can imagine, if we turn back the time and if you imagine you were watching someone speak about their experience of medical school and stuff like that, and they were maybe on the fence about it. Yeah. They weren't sure whether it was going to be for them. Yeah. Is there any kind of advice you would give to kind of maybe like someone who's thinking whether it's right for them? Is there anything they could go out and do or you think they should do?
Speak to as many different people who have any sort of link as possible. Speak to doctors, speak to any medical students, speak to other people in your year who are considering applying to medicine. Just get as many different perspectives on medicine as possible. And then also try and get your own perspective on it. Because you may think medicine's for you, and then you enter into first year and you think, nah. But you've done a lot of work to get here and you're smart enough to get here. But it's just a case of it wasn't for you, and that's okay. Like, it's not for everyone. But you also may put yourself down and say, oh, medicine's not for me. But you actually are perfectly meant for it. Mm. I think main thing for me is like, there is no stereotype for being a doctor. Like, you don't have to just be a really smart person. If you're really good socially with people, if you really enjoy talking to people and you enjoy making an impact in people's lives, that's a doctor. Like, I think if you look at yourself and you think, no one would think I'm a doctor, you probably are a doctor. Like, you know, there shouldn't be you shouldn't feel like you don't look or feel like a doctor, or medicine's too posh for you, or people in medicine are too snobbish, or people like medics have a bad rep, like especially at my uni. But it's a case of you don't have to be like that. Like, it is still meant for you. I think the main thing for me is like that personality thing. Like, you may not think you're the smartest in the room, and I definitely don't at my med school. Far from it. But I know what I can bring to medicine in the future is that social aspect, is helping people, is connecting with people. And I think that's like there will be people out there who also feel like that, and I want them to also feel like they can do medicine as well.
Nice. That's awesome, dude. So to finish then, where do you want to get to? Like, you know, where do you see yourself becoming when you become a doctor? Is there anything you want to specialize in or anything like that? Have you thought about that, or is it just too early?
I don't think it is too early, because I think a key thing is that I've learned recently is you need to start building your portfolio before you get into like foundation year doctor and specialty training. So I think it's good to have an idea as early as possible. Obviously not have a fixed idea. I think for me, I really, there's 3 very distinct things I think I'm drawn to, like GP, because I just think I like the work-life balance you get from it, the time you get to spend with family and all that stuff. Sport medicine, because obviously I'm really into my sport. I think that was the thing that drew me into medicine.
Really?
Well, like, I just really wanted to like combine sport and medicine together.
Okay.
But also like pediatrician. Okay. Like helping children. I think I like something like that. I think I'd be really, really good at in the future.
It's interesting because particularly the sport and the pediatrician, they're quite different in a way. Quite different. Like, they would be very, very different routes.
Yeah.
Is it the case where once you've chosen one speciality, you're kind of stuck with that? Or is there the opportunity to move about, would you say?
I think there's the opportunity to move about.
Okay.
And there's also the opportunity to combine as well. So I don't think there's anything like stopping me from combining pediatrician and sport medicine together. But also, like, if you do a speciality and you think later on, I want to do something else, obviously you still got to do the years of training and stuff, but there's absolutely nothing stopping you.
So do you specialize, we're getting into another topic, but I'm just interested, when you, is there going to be a point where the university or the hospital that you're working at when you're training is going to say, you now have to specialize because we've got to put you in that department and you've got to stay in that department?
Not whilst at uni.
Okay.
You only specialize after your foundation years.
Okay.
So that's your 2 years after your 5 years at uni.
Cool. Okay.
And then you just apply for specialty training after your foundation years.
Okay, cool. And that's when you'll be making your decision and choosing out of the 3.
6-7 years in the future.
So you've got a long time to think about it. Is there anything else, Tolu, you think that we should talk about? Is there anything that, obviously knowing that you were coming on the podcast, was there anything that you wanted to talk about or you wanted to say, or any sort of message that you wanted to get out there for young people watching?
I think for people in general, just focus on yourself. I think a big thing for me is just comparing. Don't let anyone compare you to anyone else. Don't compare yourself to anyone else, because obviously I think everyone's path is different. I think what's meant for you will happen for you, whether it's a roundabout way or direct route. And I think just try and, especially, okay, cool. When you get into uni, my uni advice would be make an effort with people.
Okay.
Because your friends are so valuable whilst at uni. You're going to need them in any situation, good or bad. And then for any person who's thinking of doing medicine, I would just say, find out if it's for you. If it's not, that's okay. You're not letting anyone down. Don't feel like you're forced into it, because it's your life. You're doing what needs to be best for you. And if you do it, enjoy it, because you're in med school, you've made it. Enjoy the work, find pleasure in learning about it. There are days where it's going to be rough, but there are days where it's going to be unreal. And you're going to think, wow, I'm in medical school. And those days are the best when you're like, yeah, I made it here. Yeah.
Cool. Love it, man.
Beautiful.
Okay. Well, that was pretty amazing, actually, I have to say. Yeah, really, really, really fascinating to hear all of that. If you've been watching along on YouTube, as I said at the beginning, and you've enjoyed it, if you found it helpful, do please consider subscribing to the channel and like the video. Leave a comment if you want a question asked for Tolu. I can hand it over to him. I can get the answer and I can reply to you. Particularly those who are maybe considering medicine. They've listened to Tolu today and they've sort of thought, oh, I'm still on the fence actually. And you've got a question, do please ask it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah,
Thanks. Cheers.